Are we live? Yeah, cool. All right. All right. No one's in yet. That's okay. We're not too worried about that. Okay. It's just, it takes time to build an audience. I'm trying to figure out some technical shit. Um, I did have to kind of be live to test this. Um, it seems as though my VOD on Twitch is uh, not synced with the audio video not synced. So I'm trying to figure out how to fucking do that. Okay. So I guess I gotta pull up Twitch to see what I fucking look like on this goddamn piece of love. See what I did there? All right, let's see. Love. See what I did there? All right, let's see. It looks like it's. It looks like it's synced. Like it's delayed from real life, but that's to be expected. Like it's delayed from real life, but that's to be expected. But the audio and video is aligned here. But the audio and video is aligned here. The audio and video is aligned here. The audio and video is aligned here. The audio and video. Holy shit, dude. I go on forever. Okay. Um yeah, I don't know. I think the only problem like I don't know what the problem is then. Is it just the playback on the VOD that messes it up? Or like huh? Um yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the chat if it looks off, but seems like it's good now. So if you're watching live, at least it looks fine. Sorry, I'm not prettier, but um, anyway, just want to let's see. What do we want to? What do we want to look at? Um, oh yeah, so I was on YouTube here. Um, is this gonna fucking? Is this gonna fucking work? There we go. All right. Good, good. We love it. The chat box, we want that. Gotta have it. Gotta have it. We want it. We want to see what the people are saying. Come on. Um, wait, I see it now in the little box. But why? I. Where is it? I don't know. I don't know. I'll figure that out next. Uh, okay. So this creator, I am Blakely. Uh, they, I believe, are great TikToker. I mean, she's she's a YouTuber too, but she's seems to have really hit it off on TikTok, especially. Um, So I want to look at this because this is, this is really what's happening right now. Libs and leftists shocked that not everyone did 180 after Biden stepped down. Because, look, the thing is, I think that there was actually a little bit of hope happening in the Democratic Party among, likely Democratic Party voters, we'll say. I'm no longer a registered Democrat. So, I say Democrats and I'm like, I'm kind of in this group, but like, I fuck them. But anyway, that's what I understand that there's been a lot of hope now because look, really what happened is the Democratic Party actually responded to the desires of its voters. We don't get that very often, especially when it comes to like selecting candidates, right? We've had a lot of tumult, a lot of tension about that in the past decade-ish. So yeah, I think people had this common sense demand, and not everyone, obviously, but the polls were showing, at least most of the time, I think a majority of voters overall, and Democratic voters, that hey, Chris McItaly, thanks for the follow. So my ADHD, man. Yo, thanks for coming. So yeah, it's just again, people were hopeful because the Democratic Party actually fucking responded. And most of these polls were showing majority of Democratic Party voters want Biden to not run for re-election. And, it was the common sense thing to just, kind of hand it off to Kamala Harris because that's what you do. She's the vice president. These people who are like, oh, we don't vote for her. This is undemocratic nonsense. It's like, no, dude, it's actually democracy because it's the will of the people being implemented. So people are so fucking confused because they think that like democracy means, oh, we get to vote sometimes. They let us put a thingy in a booth sometimes. That's democracy. Like, no, democracy literally means rule by the people. So if the people's will is being implemented, that's what you have. But as much as it was hopeful to see the Democratic Party respond in this way for once, the problem is that Kamala Harris is, and granted, the vice president is a, what do I want to say? Like it's a kind of hands-off job. Like, they do certain things, but it's really just a president in waiting, for the most part. And the, I literally forgot what I was fucking saying. Okay. Anyway, let's watch the stupid video. You get what I mean.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos, wondering why you can't find the motivation to do the things.
I already said everything you guys said. You guys aren't saying anything new. I already fucking said it.
Okay.
It really meant that I wasn't going to vote for someone that was complicit in genocide. The one that switched up is you.
That person is right. The people that changed are you, the ones that said a few months ago, a few weeks ago, that you weren't going to vote for the complicity of genocide. And then Joe Biden dropped out and she's taking over. And now all of you guys switched, asking for nothing. It's funny that I see a lot of people attacking voters and saying, you have to do this and shaming them. And before you come into my comments and start doing the repeat of what everybody else has already done, go back 10 months and watch the videos that I made on this exact topic. I already said everything you guys said. You guys aren't saying anything new. I already fucking said it. But those videos were also before we saw video after video after video of dead children. I saw a video yesterday of a baby's head a decapitated baby being put in a body bag. What I've learned, and actually the Democratic Party and all of you should have learned this if you voted in 2016 and Hillary Clinton lost, it doesn't work. Shaming people and attacking people and trying to bully people may overwhelm them for a little bit, but it doesn't actually work. And you're focusing on the wrong people. It is the job of the politician to earn the votes. It is, I know a lot of you aren't getting this because a lot of you have a celebrity worship problem. A lot of you have a power worship.
Yeah, no, that is the problem. And I just thought of this, that while the vice president's not super involved in like setting policy, she does come from the Biden administration. That's a very, you have to keep that in mind. And she's also still part of the Biden administration as she's now running for president. Okay. It might be a little different. I don't know if like Biden had stepped down from the presidency and actually handed the presidency to her, and now she was running for, as the incumbent president. I don't know. Maybe she would take a little bit more of a heel turn from Biden's policy on Gaza. But as it is, there was like the slightest baby little overture in some of Harris's speeches and statements lately, that people are like, oh, like grasping onto, like, yes, perhaps there's a chance. And it's like, bro, stop being like a little doggy by the kitchen table waiting for scraps to fall on the floor. It's time to like actually take charge and demand some of these things. The problem is we don't have big enough or centralized enough leftist or socialist organizations that are capable of making these demands and, following through on threats of withholding votes or anything like that. Because you can withhold your vote. I probably will. I'm probably going to vote for fucking Claudia De La Cruz or something, but like, who cares? She'll get like 0.2% of the vote. And I hope that builds up the PSL party because I like them. But other than that, like the Kamala Harris campaign and then the Kamala Harris administration, if she wins, doesn't give a fuck. Right. But if you have like, a large, I don't know how big PSL is, but if they were a little bigger, if DSA was a little bigger and perhaps more interested in doing these kinds of actions, if perhaps groups like DSA and PSL could link up with UAW and IWW, some of the big unions, and add to that like Jewish Voice for Peace and Students for Justice in Palestine. If we have a joint thing between these, I don't know, maybe then you have a chance to be like, okay, members, how about you vote on demands that we are going to make of the Kamala Harris administration or the campaign. Okay, great. So now we have a list of demands that has been democratically decided by leftist organization members. We present the demands, and hopefully now, this is a big enough group that a Kamala Harris might actually take seriously us saying, hey, we have demands, right? So we meet with her, and let's say, for the most part, she says, fuck you. There's like kind of cutting around the edges, just kind of like making little meaningless promises, whatever. To the point where it's like, okay, she's not going to meet our fucking demands. So now we are withholding our votes. We now say, okay, Kamala Harris, none of our members are, we'll take another vote, actually, right? Take a vote among our members, and maybe we vote and decide we're not going to vote for you, Kamala Harris. We decide to say that at least, right? Because you got to remember that, like, the things we're all saying publicly are taken into account by the powerful. But we make a statement as an organization that, hey, Kamala Harris wasn't interested in, 7 out of the 8 fucking things that we demanded. And that's unacceptable because of the destruction that's happening and the suffering of, frankly, the American working class, while our money goes over there to send bombs to Israel to keep doing this. So, sorry, you don't get our vote if you're going to keep doing that. All right, and then we're starting to get into territory where we could maybe affect what the Democratic Party does, or even build a party that could actually have some traction and maybe not elect a presidential candidate yet, but, get some fucking state house seats, get some congressional seats. Like, that would be great. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on revolution or, how to, like, manipulate electoral politics beyond, like, how it works now. I'm not saying that, like, this is a perfect plan, but it's something. It's like there's got to be something we can fucking do that's better than all of this. And when we say organize, I think people kind of know what we mean, but I think we need to start setting these kinds of goals, right? Like, I don't know why don't DSA Boston and PSL Boston meet and just have, like, one goal that we work on together, right? I don't know if that's happened, but I don't think so. That could be great. I just see, like, such, and it's the same thing even with what I'm doing here with Twitch and YouTube and stuff. It's like it's a bunch of individuals making videos, and they can be educational and cathartic and get people moving and thinking. But, like, ultimately we got to come together, because that's what it's fucking about, is how things get done anywhere. But it's very much leftist principle that, we're stronger together. All right, anyway, let's go back to this.
Worship problem. You worship the powerful. So instead of looking at Kamala Harris as a politician that needs to earn your vote, that should be held accountable, working on behalf of you, you look at her as a celebrity and the presidency as her way to be historic in her self-actualization, because you have a celebrity worship problem. But that's not how it is supposed to be. It is supposed to be that she is earning your vote. Going after regular people and attacking them is a waste of time. It makes me question how much you actually do care. Because if you are spending all of your time in people's comments, bullying them and harassing them and telling them that they need to vote this way and making content about it, you know what you're not doing? Canvassing. You know what you're not doing? Making calls for Kamala Harris. You know what you're not doing? Knocking on doors.
It's true. Like so many of the people who do this shit, it's like their part-time or sometimes full-time job just to, like, fucking yell at people on Twitter. It's insane. Like, yeah, if it's so important to you, why are you here? Like, why are you talking to me like some asshole who doesn't like her?
You actually care about getting Kamala Harris elected and care about keeping Trump out of the White House. First and foremost, stop trivializing people that care about what's happening in Gaza. Stop acting like it's, oh, you're just wanting to vote for something over there. Over there. It's not over there. It's our money. It's your paycheck. It's money coming out of your paycheck to pay for those bombs that are dropped on children's head that decapitate them. I understand Americans are America-centric, chauvinists, and we are always up our own ass and don't think about anything but ourselves in our own context. I get that. But you shouldn't be shaming people that care about what's happening in Gaza, because what happens around the world is directly impacted by our country. Our foreign policy has direct implications all around the world, and not just what's happening in Gaza. Because of our policy, tens of thousands of Ukrainians are dead. They could have ended that war in Ukraine within a couple months of it starting. But now tens of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians are dead because our country and the UK didn't want to end it. When you are voting, you need to understand and take into consideration the fact that our choices in foreign policy affect the entire world. And I'm not saying that in a shaming way, because honestly, I used to not. As an American, being somebody who is very chauvinistic American, America-centric, can't really think outside of the context of America, I used to not think about any political issue that was outside of our borders. But that has changed, and I am encouraging you to change that and to learn about the ways in which our choices as a country affects countries all over the world. One more time.
It's true. And you know, this is the thing I've started saying to people who are like, I don't give a fuck about no Gaza. I care about America. I just care about America. Like, all right. Well, you know, this actually doesn't require you to even give a shit about any human being outside the borders of the United States. You come at it from a selfish angle. Your fucking money is going to these other places. Never mind what it does, because you don't care, but it's gone. That's the problem. Right? So money that should be spent and could be spent on infrastructure and public services for you, Bubba, is gone. How do you fucking feel about that? You know? And the entire political apparatus supports it. 100% of the Republicans and 99% of the Democrats. You know, so.
Time for the people in the back. It is the job of the politician to earn the votes of the voters, to change policy in order to get more votes. If she wants more votes, she needs to radically shift policy, not rhetoric, policy when it comes to the Israeli regime. Now, if she wants people that care about Gaza to consider voting for her. It is the job of the politician to move their positions in order to earn votes, not the other way around. And don't be naive and be like, just like vote for her and hope that like maybe she'll like change like once she gets into, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And you know what? You guys seem to understand that when it came to Biden. We yelled at him constantly, protested him constantly, have been telling him to get out of the race constantly. And you understood that. But you don't understand it now? If you want anti-genocide folks to vote for Kamala Harris, you need to be on her campaign's ass about moving their position now, not the voter.
Oh my God. The fuck is that? Yeah, no, that's such a good point at the end there, because like, recently Bernie Sanders came out, and you know, Bernie was, for some reason, like very supportive of Biden's reelection campaign, along with AOC. And I don't know. I think they're like, honestly, they might just be stupid. They might have just like dumbass advisors. I don't know what it is, but I think it was such a bad move to be like, all right, Biden, if you add this list of progressive ideas to your campaign platform, we will go out and support you, vocally, like loudly, while, the likes of Nancy Pelosi are trying to get you to drop out. We're going to go against the party, which was never going to work. So I don't know why it's an attractive deal to Biden. And I don't know why the kind of left-leaning contingent of AOC and Bernie, and maybe Ilhan Omar and stuff too. But like, I don't know why they thought that, oh, we'll get concessions now. that he says he'll do in his next term. Like, yeah, this is a little different with Kamala because obviously she's not the president yet. But like with Biden, it's like, no, bro, fucking tell him, do this now and we'll support you. Yeah. And like, maybe it's smaller gestures because he has to like, it would be an executive order or just something that's easier to get people to agree on in Congress. Maybe it'd be a smaller thing. That's fine. But like, to get nothing but a list for later is nuts. So then, when, cause they did this too, Bernie and the left did this at the beginning of Biden's right before Biden's, campaign or presidency started. And they made demands, right? There was the Bernie Biden Commission. There's this whole thing, and they got all these concessions. Most of them didn't happen, but they at least they made the gesture because that's what you got to do if you're a minority contingent and you're trying to like actually make some headway. That's what you got to do. So people saw Bernie now fervently supporting Biden's reelection. And then as soon as Kamala became the presumptive nominee, he said, okay, now if Kamala wants to win, she's got to, make some changes to policy similar to the ones we were asking Biden to make, by the way. But now, Bernie's making demands of Kamala Harris. And people are like, oh, yeah, see? Just as we thought all along, Bernie is a sexist, racist guy. It's like, no, you dumbass. It's a different person. It's a different candidate now. So he needs to again extract those concessions. However, limp and stupid they were. That's what you gotta fucking do. That's what you gotta do. We need concessions for the workers. Kamala Harris has got to realize the immortal science of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. As Chairman Mao said, political power flows from the barrel of a gun. We must now wage a protracted people's war against the bourgeoisie. Okay. Okay, I want to watch this. So Donald Trump Jr. is a freak. Everyone knows. He's just a weird ass shitty dude. But this guy has, and if you think back a little to the other times you've seen him talk, you'll realize this. He has no poker face about about when he's on coke. Like when he's done coke, he's Cokey Don. Like you cannot, there's no way to avoid it. And I think this is the interview they're going to play of him with JD Vance. And he's talking a mile a minute. You will, for a moment, you will think that the video is sped up. It is not. And he's talking to JD Vance, who cannot get a word in edgewise. It's incredible. And I do like the Majority Report with Sam Sita and Emma Vigeland and Matt Leck. They are good people.
Composting is great, most of the time. But here's an even easier solution to fight climate change from your kitchen. Meet Mill, an odorless, effortless...
Intimidated by it, but if they weren't intimidated, maybe they were never... Have you ever been on a date where the date is not going well? And I mean, this is what I would tend to do when I go on a date, or when I used to go on a date that was not going well. I would find myself just talking to fill up space.
Oh yes.
I mean, and then
like
fair,
sipping on your drink, and then you realize like, oh, I'm just so uncomfortable. Like I maybe should slow down a little bit, right? Like that's.
Oh well, no, yes, I will drink to excess.
Yes.
And I will just start talking a mile a minute just to sort of like get over it. It like there's some level of nervousness associated with this, but it's also like I got to fill the space. And now, of course, a podcast is not a date. And if someone was interviewing JD Vance, they might be intimidated by it. But if they weren't intimidated, maybe they were nervous because they were the ones who sort of put themselves on the line to recommend JD Vance. And maybe their dad who took your advice found out that, did it and now is pissed. And so maybe, I don't know if there's an opportunity for you to grab a drink or something like that to make it easier or whatever. You maybe just grab what's closest to you. And anyway, here is this is a montage. To be fair, it's possible that JD Vance got to say a word during this exchange. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. But this is from Twitter, Ron Filipowski stitched together a video of Donald Trump Jr., I guess, interviewing JD Vance. It is fascinating. It's almost as if Trump is running from what he's done.
Like there's some of them are like, we don't even want white women. Like it doesn't like, we need to check like 3 or 4 boxes. So you can end up in like, if you're like, a trans communist, this, that, and the other, like you too.
Okay, pause it for 1 second. We should say this is not sped up. I start from the beginning. I just want to make this clear to everybody. We did not speed this up. We have not put it through the high-tech Majority Report audio filter. Go ahead.
Like there's some of them are like, we don't even want white women. Like it doesn't like, we need to check like 3 or 4 boxes. So you can end up in like, if you're like, a trans communist, this, that, and the other, like you too can be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company with no experience whatsoever. He's actually spent real time with them. Like, and he's sort of, I would say he's the blue collar billionaire. And 15 years ago when I said it, people used to shit all over me. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't understand. And now they understand. What the borders are, wrote the article. It wasn't even like it was the same publication. It was the same journalist. I'm like, this you? Like, to literally save democracy, because it's literally at risk, JD. That's why I keep the notion that, democracy is all things, but if the elite, meaning Barack Obama, the Clintons, a couple billionaire donors be like, okay, this isn't working. We're going to take everything we gave you. We didn't give you any other options. We threw, RFK off the ticket. Yep. We basically tried to push anyone else from happening. So we gave you your only choice. You actually then chose that person. And now America is not there. Now they're pretending, no, she's a moderate. They did the same thing with Joe Biden. He's going to be so moderate. He's so moderate. Look, he's moderate. Yeah. The policies were not. I hate to say it, but like literally, but it's like me, a couple other people that we're friends with that are like, hey guys, here are the facts, but you're not going to get that. Honestly, you may not get that on. I don't know.
Seems like it should be illegal.
I'm reasonably fast. If you see me on Twitter, like I'll get out a mean tweet in seconds. Right. I don't think I'm going through a checkout process 7,000 times or whatever the statistic. It's over and over again. I mean, even if they're very average at best at what they're doing, of course, they thought of themselves as the elites, and yet none of these guys are exactly. They all copy everyone. The Marines thing, I'll sit it behind a desk for a year or two. After I do all the other things because I want to get into politics. You did it first.
Okay, so that's not awkward first date energy. Now that we're on the other side of that. That is, I went to college with some guys that ended up going and working on Wall Street, and I don't really care about them anymore, but when I was like 22 or 23, I'd still be going to parties, and sometimes it would be late night, and you'd walk into a room, and there'd be guys going, all we have to do is invest like this. All we have to do is invest in this. Don't you want to start a business together? Yeah, we could do this. Like we could go together. Let's watch New York Giants highlights. Let's watch Giants highlights, right? Like when
It's only I will say I did try Coke once, and it was not in college. It was a couple of years post-college when I was living in a really just dilapidated building like a loft apartment with a bunch of friends from college. And we had like all these people over for this party. And my friend Victoria, shout out, Victoria Watts, check out her music. I just fucking outed someone for giving me cocaine. It was years ago. Fuck you. She did nothing wrong. She's a saint. But she didn't give it to me. It was just, it appeared in my hands. And so I did it. And it was scary. It was scary how good it was. Like, because I don't know if you can tell, I'm an awkward guy sometimes. I'm not always super confident, especially 10 years ago, in like social situations. And that was hard for me. So when I was on coke, suddenly that was super easy to just like be at a party and talk to people. Like I would literally be talking to someone and just like zeroed in and fucking like, yeah, and I'm just like going and going. And then out of the corner of my eye, I'd see someone who I know. And I'll go, oh, hey man, how you doing? What's up? Good to see you. I shake his hand. I'm like, right back to the other conversation. I'm just like, there's just seamless. The rest of the night was just seamless. And I was like, that's scary. That's scary because I get it now. I get why, people get addicted to this shit. So never did it again. Haven't done that one again. It's also partially because I don't care enough about being social. Like I think that's part of it, is like, if I was more of a social climber, careerist or whatever, like maybe I would have been like, oh shit, this is the fucking answer, man. And I'd be seeking it out. But like, yeah, I think it's just not important enough to me to like impress anyone. So, and look how well that turned out. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
it's 4 a.m.
Yeah, another beer. Hey, let's go to the bathroom.
Oh, come on. What do I gotta get fucking? I gotta put the ad blocker.
That's what that was.
I gotta put the ad blocker on this computer. I just realized it's a new computer.
My favorite part of that is how Vance tries to sort of like get a word in edgewise, and it just gets completely steamrolled. And also, the amazing thing is that they are so upset at the ability of the Democratic Party to be responsive to, I don't know what the last set of polls was, like 65, 75% of people were saying they didn't want Biden as the nominee. They're so upset about it. They're going to cry about this until, like, if Trump loses the election, guaranteed, in his speech calling for people to rise up and how he's going to be prosecuted, he's going to talk about how this election was rigged because Kamala Harris should not have been the nominee. It was unfair to him. Spent all that money on the ads against Joe Biden. And I do think that I know there's a lot of people who think that Donald Trump Jr. is using, illicit drugs. I suspect that he's using legal drugs that probably aren't necessarily warranted, and maybe doing a lot of them. Although maybe I'm wrong. I'm.
It's true. It could be Adderall. I just realized, which is something I do take. So you know what? There you go. I have continued the amphetamines. I was actually off of them for years, and it was a disaster. I'm on them. Recently raised the dose, so maybe I shouldn't feel so high and mighty about staving off a cocaine habit. But no, I'm not. Snorting multiple lines of it like Don Jr. seems to be. And here we go.
I'm going to be open to that. I'm not going to claim to have any special insight to this, but he is clearly got to be nervous because he's the one who supposedly at least was taking credit for the JD Vance pick, sort of second to order leaking to reporters. And that's just enough for Donald Trump, his dad, to blame him. I hope he gets written out of the will when his dad goes to jail. That's what I'm saying.
He was already in the doghouse, right? Because Barron is so much taller. So, and he has a beard like JD. So.
Yeah, I knew we shouldn't have done the beard. And then he also now is like, he's talking like this the whole time. He's sitting like one of those people that they do, hidden videos of on the subway, where it's like, I mean, what's going down? I'm filtering everything into my junk. That's what I'm doing with all my hands. Look at I'm filtering everything into my junk.
That's a body language. You want to draw the eye to the place where the audience will, I don't know.
It's such a deep separation of the legs over the chair.
It's called man spreading.
Hey, so we all...
That is really funny. Oh, he's so nuts, dude. I love it. Fuck. Yeah. Yeah, that's cocaine / amphetamines for you. Amphetamines. Sick. So yeah, what do we want to look at? This is all majority report. We don't want to repeat too much there. So Socialist Sundays with Radicalize Me. Cool. What's that all about? Netanyahu fuming after Kamala Harris calls for God. Yeah, see, this is the thing about Kamala, like, and all of them fucking trying to ride the line on everything. Is like, you're not going to get credit from us, from the left, for like, softening your language a bit. We want fucking real change, we want actual like policy change, material change. And by softening your language a little bit, the fucking, your favorite fucking right-wing psychopath genocider is mad at you now. So what have you fucking gained? Like, goddamn. So yeah, let's see what the Hill says about this.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not.
Good morning and happy Friday. I'm Amber Duke and joined by my co-host Jessica Burbank today. Jessica, good morning.
I just wanted to get another day of rising in with you, Amber.
You just can't stay away. All right, we have a lot of news to get to today, as always, and we're going to start off with Vice President Kamala Harris meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. The presumptive Democratic presidential nominee delivered remarks following the meeting, expressing her unwavering support for the existence of the State of Israel.
Now, Harris also underscored the need for a ceasefire in Gaza and expressed a forcefulness on ending the war.
So I just had a frank and constructive
forcefulness is a forceful term, but let's hear it.
Meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah. I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters.
Now, Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, met with Harris after he spent almost 3 hours with Joe Biden. They were discussing a Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. Netanyahu was reportedly disappointed with Harris's remarks after their meeting. One Israeli official said, quote, "We hope that Harris's public criticism of Israel won't give Hamas the impression that there's daylight between the U.S. and Israel, and as a result, make it harder to get a deal."
Now that's interesting, because I would think, based on, observable reality that this glare out of here. What is this? A J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie? All right. I would think that it would be more likely to get a hostage deal if Hamas thinks that there's daylight between Kamala and Biden's Harris and Biden's Gaza policy, since the Biden administration keeps fucking lying and saying that Hamas is rejecting deals when in reality Israel is. So yeah, if there's daylight on publicly accepting reality between Harris and Biden, then you're more likely to get a fucking ceasefire deal. But of course, with Netanyahu, everything he fucking says is a lie. This fucking fascist piece of shit.
Israeli Prime Minister will meet with former President Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate today. It's their first meeting since Trump left the White House, and sources told CNN the meeting was requested by Netanyahu.
Joining us now to discuss is White House columnist at The Hill, Niall Stanage. Niall, good morning. Thank you for joining us. How problematic do you think this could be electorally for Kamala Harris? She has signaled public support for Israel, but also has, of course, suggested there should be a ceasefire. She also put out a pretty strong statement condemning some of the more violent protests that took place in the nation's capital earlier this week.
No, let's be clear. She condemned all the protests and suggested that all the protests were violent. And let's be clear, the worst of it was fucking burning a flag, which is constitutionally protected speech, and defacing a bell. People were saying the Liberty Bell. It's not even. It might be a replica of the Liberty Bell, but it's they call it the Freedom Bell, I think. And it's in D.C., not Philly. And I'll tell you this: the one in Philly, also not the original. So suck my cock. Yeah, no, they defaced a fucking bell. And of course, what was happening really in the heart of the protests here was cops beating the shit out of peaceful protesters, because that's how this goes. It's not about how you protest. Don't let them fucking fool you with that shit. It's not about how. It is not. It's about the cause. It's about what you're protesting. That's what they care about. Go ahead. Do everything fucking perfectly, whatever that means. Now are they like, okay, now we listen? But let's see.
This week, has she done enough to satisfy the Democratic base that is more pro-Palestinian on this issue?
You know, I think the electoral element of this issue is really complicated. I mean, people, of course, have very strong views on the morality of it in various ways, but electorally it has always been more complicated for Democrats than for Republicans, because most Republican voters are pretty strongly pro-Israel. And the Democratic Party...
I'm going to go out on a limb and say most Republican voters don't give a shit about Israel, and they're just like, yeah, do whatever. I don't give a fuck. Just own the libs. Just please own the libs. That's, or they're just, they're HVAC business owners and they don't want to pay taxes or pay their employees more. And, I have a feeling, I'm sorry, I'm this is a feels argument, but based on my life experience, I'm going to say, no, most Republicans are not like up on the Israel issue, and they're like, oh yeah, I support Israel's right to exist or whatever. Evangelical Christians maybe, but anyway.
in terms of its voter base, leans pretty heavily more pro-Palestinian, but isn't without a pro-Israel element. And so I think you see Harris trying to sort of navigate her way through that. The criticisms of the protesters around Union Station here in DC, those were very strong criticisms. Then she, as you showed in the clip you played, both voiced support for Israel and pretty strong criticism of the way it has conducted itself in Gaza. That's an attempt to, as I say, navigate through the democratic politics of it. Those politics are pretty thorny, I think.
Harris finds herself in a really tough position with these pro-Palestine progressives that are considering whether or not to go with Harris. They're in the coconut army right now, which is equally part serious as is a joke. I'm not saying some people think it's a joke and others think it's serious. It's both at the same time for most of the people in this movement. And they want action on Gaza. And
I love Jessica Burbank explaining this internet mind virus concept to this old ass fucking columnist. He's just like, yes, of course, okay, it's both.
it puts Harris in a tough position because she right now is in the Biden administration, not the Harris administration. She's not in a position to deliver action. Do you think these words will be enough to bring in the youth vote?
I think they might be, Jess, if they are perceived as signaling a change. But the problem is exactly the one that you outlined, honestly. Kamala Harris is the presidential candidate at the same time as she's the sitting vice president. So she has no real power yet. I mean, you can argue that influence certainly is moving pretty rapidly toward her and away from President Biden, but it's not her who's setting the policy. So she has to, in a sense, wear a couple of different hats, as on one hand, the supportive vice president, and on the other, as the presumptive Democratic nominee. I think a lot of us assume she would move maybe one or two notches more toward a broadly pro-Palestinian position, but that's just based on sort of trying to read between the lines at this point. It isn't based on any substantive policy change because she doesn't have the power to make one.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into that sort of dichotomy with where Kamala Harris sits right now in terms of her positioning as we head into November, because she was the one who gave this speech shortly after the meetings between both herself and then Joe Biden with the prime minister. And she also is likely trying to demonstrate that she has some kind of foreign policy experience. That has been a weak spot in her previous presidential campaign, as well as her campaigns for Senate. So how exactly does she strike that balance without stepping on the toes of Joe Biden and giving the American people the impression that Joe Biden is basically acting as a lame duck president?
With great difficulty, I think. I just think that is an inherently difficult thing to do, whether one prizes Kamala Harris's political skills highly or not. That's just a difficult task that she has. And I do think its difficulty was shown in particularly stark relief yesterday, because on one hand, it seemed like she wanted those images of her, on the world stage. But then when Netanyahu's coming to visit, that's an image of you beside Benjamin Netanyahu, which is a very problematic image from the point of view of the Democratic base. I think that we do seem to be seeing her move into more of the sort of ceremonial's a bit unfair, actually, just more high-profile moments that she is participating in. The other thing that is very notable, Amber, is just how much more intense the attention is on her now. 2 or 3 weeks ago even, a vice presidential event was kind of a little bit of an afterthought, and you very rarely saw it on any cable news channel unless there was something dramatic happening. I was at the White House immediately after President Biden had stepped aside when she did this event, which was basically in celebration of college athletes, and there were, reams of press there. So she'll get the attention. The question is, does that rebound to her benefit or to her detriment?
It seems that a lot of people are holding on to hope that Kamala Harris will be different once she gets into office upon winning in November on Gaza. But there were protests across D.C. I went to a couple of them downtown. They were overwhelmingly peaceful. MPD was creating a line between a handful of counter protesters to, keep the peace as they were. I saw on several occasions getting into the pro-Palestinian protester space. There was some graffiti on a replica of the Liberty Bell that got the attention of many conservatives. Of course, the flag burning, which is a form of protest in the United States that is perfectly legal, I will say, under the First Amendment. But Kamala Harris did pen a letter and put it out as a PDF letter from her office. And this got the attention of some of the protesters. It got the attention of the youth. But I think it might matter that was a letter, and it was to satisfy maybe some of the more conservative members of the Democratic Party, some of the more pro-Israel.
Right, and this is the problem. And it's kind of, this kind of runs through what they're talking about here. But like, yeah, the Democrats so often feel the need, I should say, to do this thing where they attack the left to satisfy the right in the party. Just think of this within the Democratic Party. They attack the left to satisfy the right, and then they give small overtures to the left, which are very clearly, they're not good enough for us for good reason. And then the small overtures piss off the right. So then they lose, it's just such a fucking like circle jerk clusterfuck in the goddamn Democratic Party. It's such a stupid concept of a party. It's a sad excuse for a political party.
Members of the Democratic Party. But what she said in this speech, how she didn't make those same comments and echo what she said in the letter, do you think that matters? Do you think that signals a change, or are we really just grabbing at nothing here, Niall?
I think as much as we can read those clues, Jessica, it seems to suggest a bit of a change, but I don't think the people who were protesting, around Union Station and elsewhere across DC should yet take too much faith that a Harris presidency, if it arrives, is going to be a kind of free Palestine presidency. I mean, I don't think that's where she stands at all. I think she's trying to display, to a degree, greater empathy for the many, many millions of Americans and people around the world, for that matter, who find the suffering of the Palestinians just horrific and have real human empathy for it. But the letter that you noted was pretty strong, very much so, actually. Just not that anecdotal evidence is necessarily massively dispositive one way or another, but I went down to one of the protests, was speaking to a couple of attendees, including one young woman who said that she planned to vote for the Green Party candidate, even though she had mixed feelings because she wanted to vote for a woman who could be the first woman president, i.e. Vice President Harris. But she felt she couldn't do that unless Harris promised much more of a block on any US military aid to Israel in the future.
All right, Niall, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back with more Rising after this.
There you have it. Yeah, I mean, it's just, the answer is we need to do a lot more if we're serious about, getting a change from Harris on this. And, as much as I'm leaning towards like the build a new party idea, because you can't really like reform the Democratic Party. I do think there's value in a real like big movement, like the kind that got the U.S. to divest from South Africa. Sorry, my fucking broken ankle hurts like shit. Yeah, the protest movement in the 80s got in part got the U.S. to divest from South Africa, and I think there's no reason we couldn't do the same now. I think there's value in that because, again, think about, like, there's ideological goals here, but at the end of the day, like, we're talking about human beings who are in a pen and just being absolutely brutalized and slaughtered. So we want that to stop, and I think there's value in making that stop if we can do it. So I think that there's got to be a huge pushback. And I gave myself the idea. I might actually, I think I'm technically a member of both DSA Boston and PSL Boston. I might send them a couple of emails about uniting for a shared goal. Fuck it, why not? Maybe they'll see it. But yeah, I am again recovering from this broken ankle, so I think I'm gonna go and tend to that and just give myself more time to rest. And I will be back. I might have time tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, but definitely next Sunday. I think I'm going to try to keep this a regular thing, and I'll see you then. Much love and solidarity.